welcome to the Bolshevik News. Guys, big thanks to those of you, as always, that are supporting the YouTube channel, the Observatory, and our webpage. Guys, what I should have said in yesterday's video should have been a little bit more direct. Thinking about it now and just watching a friend's video, you know, I can definitely relate to what he was saying in that, and you know, some of the things that he was talking about. But the bottom line is that the grid is going to be the thing that really changes our lives when it goes down, and the grid is going to go down at some point. It could be in 5 years, it could be in 25 years, and that all depends on which anomaly affects the grid first. And there's more than one that is, you know, likely to affect that. But inevitably, the thing which causes all the collapse of societies globally will be the fact that, you know, countries' grids, electrical grids, are going to fail. And here's the bottom line on why they were going to fail. If we are looking to go back, and it is certainly on the cards, into another glacial period, then the infrastructure around the world is not set up for handling that sort of climate change. And you know, you can do your own research, you can take it from me or somebody else. Regardless, the fact is that you know, we don't have the replacements for when these cables start snapping and these transformers start exploding. And you know, that can happen with excessive amounts of ice building up on the power lines across these countries. Another reason the grid can go down is by a CME, a coronal mass ejection from the sun. Now, back in history, we had the Carrington event. You can research this. The highest technology at that time was just telephone lines, and when the flare hit Earth, it literally fried all those telephone lines. In this day and age, we are super dependent on technology which is vulnerable to this CME, coronal mass ejection from the sun, and we become even more vulnerable when we are in the process of a magnetic reversal, because the magnetosphere has already weakened. Some organisations, mainstream organisations, believe it is around about 10 to 15%. I think it's more along the lines of 20%, maybe even a little bit more. And it's one of the things that we monitor every day, every 15 minutes of every hour of the day, on our channel and our website at the Observatory, because we feel it's important to know how fast that change is taking place. You guys know as well as I do, and I hope you do, if the knowledge of the grid down to you is not familiar, then you know, it's time now to start taking notice on what will happen. Because simply, as a friend of mine said in a video either today or yesterday, your next door neighbour is going to turn into a zombie. And I don't mean what you envision as a zombie, you know, in the films where they're flesh-eating zombies, but he's going to turn into something ugly like that. And the reason why he's going to turn into something ugly like that is because his eyes are going to be that green and envious about what you have. He is going to take it upon himself to help himself to that, what you have. And if you haven't took any forms of measures of protecting yourselves and your families, then you're going to be vulnerable to a great deal of bullies in the not too distant future. And that is one of the reasons why you need to get ready for what is coming, because it is certainly the case that it is coming. When the grid fails, it's not just people that turn on each other, and they will, in the most horriblest and horrific ways that you can imagine. You know, if you just picture zombies outside your house, all willing to take what you've got and even kill you for it and your family members, because social unrest at these points in times, and it happens absolutely so quick, you would not get your breath. We're talking in the matter of 2 weeks, people will begin to kill each other for resources. You know, cities, I've said before, are stagnant places in this day and age because of how dependent they are on all the things that need to be imported into a city in order to keep it sustainable. Water needs to be pumped into it, sewage needs to be pumped out of it, food needs to be taken into it. Everything relies upon the electrical grid. If there's no electricity being produced, there is no fuel being pumped at the fuel stations. If there's no fuel being pumped at the fuel stations, and nobody has a surplus amount stored away like these logistic companies, and we know that they don't have, you know, their own fuel storage, then things are going to grind to a halt very quickly. If they cannot get the grid back up within a matter of 2 weeks, society will begin to collapse. Now, it's fine if you're part of an indigenous tribe, you know, you will go unnoticing the events around you. You know, you will still have to go out there and kill your wild boar in order to feed your family. But it is different for us westernized people, and, you know, from all over this world, you know, who have got dependent on going to the shops for supplies, you know, got dependent on companies delivering our electricity and energy requirements to our homes. You know, when it all goes south, guys, and it will do, and it's only a matter of time, could be between 5 and 10 years, if the magnetic poles reverse in that period of time, and we have it doesn't even have to be at the same level X flare as the Carrington event was, because at the time of the Carrington event there was a healthy magnetosphere, so it doesn't even have to be that strong. It could be a milder X flare that comes off that sun and glances, you know, the earth, and at that time fries all the electrical systems within it. I'm talking about your mobile phones, your PCs, you know, the power stations, their transformers will just explode. The thing is, even these power companies don't have backups for all the power transformers that they need to replace to get the grid back up and running. You know, some of these organisations have their own power supply, and they will be able to, like the military might have power supply, some hospitals will have a limited amount of power supply or energy supply, but in general, most people, and there's 8 billion of us nearly on this planet, will not have those resources. And that's why I'm always telling you guys, you know, start now getting a few things together. You know, I was looking on getting out of the 9 to 5 regime of going to work, coming home, you know, and trying to, you know, break the cycle. Yeah, so one of the things is probably like you've done as well, guys, is looking on, you know, maybe starting up an Amazon shop or something, an alternative meat, something that I can give myself a bit more time back, but more importantly, you know, provide some of the things that people might need in a crisis. And I'm not trying to plug an Amazon shop to you guys, because, you know, I'm not going to do that. But I'm just saying, you know, there are things on Amazon. One of the best-selling products actually was one of these straws that you can plug into any source of water, regardless, and it will filter it and clean it. And that's one of the biggest selling products on Amazon. You got to ask yourself, you know, the question: why is Amazon, you know, one of them top 20 products, you know, a survival device in this day and age when the grid hasn't gone down yet? I think there's a lot more people subconsciously perhaps doing this, you know, putting things like that aside. I think it's one of those great things that everyone should have, you know, because when the grid goes down, there's not going to be any fresh drinking water. You need to sterilise your water yourself. You need to, you know, it's like I said, you need to go back into them probably Edwardian and Georgian times and look at how they survived, look at how they kept themselves clean and healthy in them days. And, you know, that's what you have to have the mindset of going further into these days. I mean, when the grid goes down, it's going to affect everything. There isn't going to be any food in the shops after a short period of time. There's going to be no fuel, so your car's going to be useless. What's going to happen to everybody's mortgages? Are they all going to, because obviously people aren't going to be able to go to work. If people can't go to work, then, you know, and even if people do go to work, you know, what good is the money going to be if there's nothing to spend that money on? These are the things that people need to get in their heads. And then even on top of these problems, you've got the problems of people wanting to take what you have away from you. And, you know, this is something I've been pondering myself. What is the best thing to do? You know, bug in or bug out during those times? Is it best to be on your feet? If so, maybe a reasonable quality bug out bag would be suffice. But you've got to then become a hunter and gatherer. You've got to know how to hunt your own food, where to source your own food. You've got to know your what are they? What's the word I'm looking for? The aromatherapies. Basically, what I'm talking about is probably not the best word. But what I'm talking about is you've got to know what plants you can use in order to get those natural medicines if you have got ailments at that time. These are some of the skills you need to do. I mean, a few good books would be one on plants and medicines, natural ones, and another one would be on survival techniques, hunting, gathering, how to make our own fishing rod and stuff like that. These are some of the skills that I've been practicing. I regularly go with my son sea fishing. I don't need to take bait because I know I can use the natural baits, and it's sometimes better because natural baits that you find along the beaches are some of the baits, in any case, or foods that the fish that you're trying to catch eat naturally. So you don't need these glorious baits that you can buy from the fishing tackle shops. You can get them naturally on the beaches or on the lakes where, because at the end of the day, these fishes are eating the natural resources, so you can get hold of these things. The other thing is making hunting equipment for yourself, like snares and things like that. I know this all sounds absolutely incredible, guys, because you're looking around probably now in your own home. You're probably on the train on the way home, you've got your earphones plugged into your iPhone, you're listening to me, and I'm saying, all these people around you could easily be zombies in 5 years' time. They could be taking it upon themselves to take whatever left you have with you and your family. And you need to come up with an idea. You need a plan, guys. You need a plan for what you are going to do in those 2 weeks that grid goes down, because you will know more than most people will know now by listening to this video and other videos like this, that you only have a limited period of time during that point, from that point when that grid goes down. And we could all be sitting there one day in the future, perhaps in 5, 6, 10 years time, and we hear that there's been a CME, and you've probably been wondering why some of the equipment ain't working around your home, but you get to hear about it perhaps from your neighbours or your friends, or the grid has gone down, and from that point on you've got to act. Now let me tell you something. From that point on, if you're trying to order stuff off anywhere online, it's probably not accessible anymore. So if you're waiting for the event to happen before you take action, it will be way too late by that point. You need to have some provisions right now for yourselves and your families and your loved ones. You really need to take that on board. And I've been trying to tell people this for years on my channel. Nearly a decade now, guys, we've been doing this. We've been talking about the implications of the magnetic pole shift. We've been talking about the solar cycles declining and what this leads to. But more importantly, if you start doing some research, you'll find out how often these glacial periods happened and where we are right now on the scale of a glacial period happening again. Forget the grand solar minimum. If that does happen, it's a mild event. It lasts probably 50 years at the most. It will be, a thing to be concerned about, don't get me wrong, but the glacial periods are what we are on line to go back into, and they last many thousands of years. The world is like an apple tree. And we are about to go into the winter. The fruit has already fallen off the tree, and there is way too many people on this planet, and things are stagnating already all around us, guys. Jobs are going, and there is only a certain amount of places on the internet for e-commerce, internet businesses, and we're not all going to be an internet entrepreneur or even scrape by in some forms and means, when it all goes over to there. Because if you didn't know already, the internet is the new high street. That's why your shops are shutting down in your local communities right now. That's why the shopping malls are going bankrupt. That's why we've seen shops like in this country, Woolworths, Toys R Us, these big companies. Maybe not so much Toys R Us, but definitely Woolworths, one that always rings out with me, because it was a shop that was open and had been in business for 100 years and it's gone. And the reason why it's gone is because the internet has taken its business away from it. And most shops now can't survive on the high street paying rates and rents and competing with somebody who doesn't pay that on the internet. Like I say, the world is stagnating right now. We're overdue. A lot of other things. Forget, just the natural occurring events which are on the doorstep of all of us right now. The world is changing. We all need to get our heads around this, and we need to be aware of what we will face. during these times. I didn't really want to go on this long about this, but I try and drive it home to you guys of the importance to take out that little bit of insurance. You know what, you probably don't even need to spend $100 or £100 on some equipment. A good reasonable quality backpack, some means of lighting a fire, a good axe, some medical, simple medical equipment. I mean, I've got, and I've showed you guys, my bug out bag is probably capable of a lot more than what my capabilities would be. I mean, I've even got a proper surgeon's kit in that bag, with syringes, not syringes, although I have got those. They can be used for a multitude of different things as well. But I've got suture equipment. I've even practiced suture on bananas like surgeons do, so that I could, in an emergency, if there's no one else around, and it's a case of life and death or getting a nasty infection, I can do, suture, to put that wound right. Guys, it's up to you what skills you want to learn yourselves. But the fact is this, the grid is going to go down. There's nothing that anyone can do about it. It is not speculation that it will happen. It will happen. There is no two ways about it. And at that point, you're going to be on your own. And you need to take that on board right now. You might not be able to use your car. Your house might be just a bad idea to stay in because of how many people you live around that are going to be wanting everything. I mean, I've seen the documentaries that both the American and the English government put out about this, and one guy gets his head caved in with a tin of peas because they're fighting over it. I personally don't want to be in a situation where I've got to kill someone over a tin of peas. I'm more likely to just put my backpack on, walk away from everything I've owned and worked all my life for, and just with my family head off to and avoid as many people and big pockets of people as possible, and just try and find somewhere where I can thrive and survive. And if I have to relocate 20 times, then I'd do that. If money was premium to me, my ultimate bug out was going to be one of these 8-berth yachts, and you can pick them up for probably from 50,000, or you could probably pick one up less than that if you want a scrapper and do it up. Anything along those lines. I just think, the further you are away from the mass populations is probably going to be the better thing for you. That's why I've got some friends that are in, Colorado, up in the mountains. They just don't want to be in the vicinity of, hundreds and hundreds of zombies acting crazy just for those few things that you've got. When it comes down to it, they will take everything off you. And even with the bug out bag, you could be vulnerable to just the fact that you've got a load of stuff in that bag that they want. You've got to become invisible, and you've probably at that point in time got to duck and dive, hide. You've got to become probably like, one of these animals, like a deer. How frightened they are of everything. You've got to become like that. But you definitely have got to start taking on board that the grid is the most vulnerable thing in both these scenarios, a magnetic pole reversal and the fact that we could go back easily from this point on into a glacial period. And if that's the case, the grid is going to go down. It's simple. So I hope I've emphasised the fact and how important it is for you guys to take out those little insurance policies by preparing now. And if you've got, say, a food storage, and you're protected from a lot of other people, and you've got perhaps a few firearms or something like that, you're going to be in a lot better situation than not having these things. Can you imagine looking at your kids, having had this information told to you and you did nothing? Your kids are starving, your wife's starving, you're at the point where you're probably about to turn into a zombie yourself and go out there. Because if you look at what's happened in recent war scenarios and what people are likely to do in order to feed children, you'll know that one of those things will be kill if that need be. I remember a story, I think it was in Kosovo or Sarajevo, one of those, anyhow, a woman slept with a guy for a few tins of food and he didn't give him that. She killed him. I'm just saying that a woman will do anything to feed her children, regardless. even if it comes to killing or sleeping with another man or something else. You know, you will all probably find yourselves at some point, you know, probably willing to give up more for just a few things than you would have probably anticipated doing. Anyhow, guys, you know, big thanks to those people that are supporting us on Patreon, and those people that supported us today on PayPal. Great stuff. You know, we have 20,000 subscribers, and at any point in time, you know, the other 21,000 can chime in, you know, and support what we do. We're trying to genuinely help people. We do a little bit more than just talk about it. We actually have an observatory that records all this stuff live for you guys to see for yourselves, and we've got a fantastic website covering pretty much every anomaly that's taking place on this planet right now. And of course, we give you excellent advice backed by facts such as this. So if you want to support us, the links are there, and I'll say what I usually do. You know, I love you all, and as always, bye for now.